This is Jordan Tower with JTNEWS. Well, we got this Taxsone and Meek interview coming up on Monday. We got a preview of it. I'm excited to see this, especially for one reason. These two have hated each other for a long time. Now, some of you might not even know who Taxsone is, but if you don't, he's a popular podcaster. That's basically what he's known for, being a podcaster and being on Twitter and just, kind of like commenting on the culture. And Meek, we all know Meek, So basically, Taxstone's been hating Meek Mill for like 2 years, I'd say, heavily. And it's been a lot of Taxsone versus Meek Mill. Meek Mill's responded. So it's kind of shocking to see these two doing an interview and Meek even agreeing to doing this interview. But I'm sure Meek agreed to do the interview because Beanie Siegel basically blasted Meek Mill on his platform. But also, we got to recognize one thing. Meek Mill is with Roc Nation. And Taxsone is affiliated with Roc Nation. He only uses the title. He does Duce. He's a very heavily affiliated with Roc Nation. That's who probably hooked this interview up. And all of a sudden now Taxsone is definitely promoting Meek Mill with the whole DC4. He's giving it up, which is cool, But I don't know what to expect from the interview. I don't think he's going to go hard as we think he should because the part they leaked, you got to be like, when you're leaking a preview, right? It's got to be good, man. And it's just good just seeing this. And I'm going to tune in, obviously, and I'm excited to see. I'm not going to completely judge everything yet because I'm going to give it a chance on Monday. But I'm going to say it doesn't look like he's going to go too hard on it because when he brings up back-to-back, which I'm glad he did because nobody's really asked Meek Mill about back-to-back. So he said, back-to-back, what'd you think? And then Meek Mill, he went straight in. I was surprised how, I like how Meek Mill attacked it. He said, I didn't really think it was anything. I didn't think he went that hard. Basically when I diss somebody, I go for the heart. And, I make them like question themselves afterwards. And then I wasn't really questioning myself. So I didn't see anything that stood out. What stood out to you? Now, this is a perfect opportunity to bring up the lines, if is that a girl? Is that a world tour? Your girl tour? Twitter fingers. Bring up those lines, right? Basically talking about Meek Mill. You're gonna need a prenup with Nicki Minaj because she got more money than you. I mean, there's a great opportunity to bring up those lines, right, and get Meek Mill's response. But he said, no, I think it was the beat. It was just a poppy type of beat. Nah, that wasn't it, man. It was certain lines in there. Meek would have responded to that. If he had said that, Meek would have responded. Now, we don't know the environment, so I can't really totally count Tax out. Maybe Tax was down there by himself. Maybe he had an agreement with Roc Nation and it's business, Or maybe, Meek's goons were right there in a truck behind him and maybe he was by himself and it wasn't really, it's not he's out of his element. He's in the wraith with Meek riding around, So then after that, he said, well, why didn't you respond? And they cut it off there because, Meek took a long time to respond. So, I'm glad he at least went there. So we're going to have to see where this goes, but I'm not expecting too much from there, especially because this is probably hooked up through Roc Nation and, they can't go too hard on Meek. Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll have to see. Now, all of a sudden, Taxsone's supporting Meek, so it's interesting. We will have to see how this all plays out on Monday, and I will obviously give my review of that situation.